Yep, we got some good people coming in right now. Thank you all for joining. So we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to join the webinar. So if people that have already joined, y'all don't mind just sharing where you're joining from, we would love to hear as we give people a couple minutes. Awesome. We got Pittsburgh. I'm also East Coast, just a little bit further south. Canada, welcome. Okay. I was just in California about a month ago. We have some recent retail clients that have joined, and I feel like there's a lot of retail. I don't know where you're at in California, but also welcome. Okay. So I'm sure that people will continue to join over the coming minutes, but I believe that we can. Thousand Oaks. I'm going to have to Google that one. I'm afraid I only know the big places. Um, but Southern California. So I was in LA. I feel like I have to go to, or I get to go to LA once every couple months, just based upon how much we do over there. But I'm sure the people will continue to join over the next few minutes. But without further ado, we can go ahead and get started. So we have today we're going to be covering navigating global supply chain trends and challenges. So I'll focus on specific trends that are happening in the CPG space, challenges that are associated with those trends, and then strategic approaches for how we can solve them. We have a few speakers here today. So first of all, we have Sheetal. Sheetal is the Chief Operating Officer at Anamine Business Consulting, and she's a seasoned supply chain leader, as well as has strong experience in business analytics. She has over a decade of experience leading high-impact initiatives across India and the US, helping an organization like Wild Republic that's on this call. She has a foundation in engineering, as well as a master's in business and supply chain, and is knowledgeable on how to implement planning solutions, make them into scalable, measurable business outcomes, and then really driving those results. In addition, so please meet Shital. In
Thank
addition,
you.
yep. In
Mhm.
addition to Shital, we also have Adam Ford joining the call. Adam is a seasoned supply chain professional with extensive global experience in demand planning, inventory optimization, and SOP leadership. He served as a senior supply chain manager at Wild Republic, who we're going to talk about some of their results today, and has previously held key positions at Lincoln Electric and K&M International. Over the years, he's managed complex global supply chains, led forecasting for many SKUs, and driven initiatives to improve working capital, but not only stopping there, also improve customer satisfaction by driving up those service levels. And then last but not least is myself. So I am with Streamline as Director of Sales in North America. I've have a breadth of experience in supply chain, whether it be transportation management, global trade, demand forecasting, inventory optimization. I'm also an engineer by degree, like Sheetal, but I've been in supply chain for as long as I can remember. If you want to move to the next slide. For our agenda today, first of all, we're going to start with a consumer goods overview, just kind of talking about macros in the space, where it's currently at. After that, we're going to talk about the supply chain reality of those consumer goods, and then how trends in this space are changing. After that, we're going to move specifically to the challenges that Adam and Wild Republic faced, and then we're going to tackle how they've solved those issues with Animind as well as Streamline. And then we're going to do a brief overview of Animind and Streamline, and then would love to answer any questions you have following our presentation. So,
Thank you.
yep. So next I'm going to pass it over to Sheetal and Adam to take us through the bulk of the presentation.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for the introduction. I'm happy to be here on this webinar. Excited to hear from the speaker and also from the audience as well. We'll have a couple of polls there as well to get some insight. We would like to start off with, CPG industry trends. What are the trends that are shaping up this market? And since we have Adam on the call, I've had the opportunity to work with Adam for a long time, and I've been pretty excited about the improvements that we have seen together. So I'd like to hear from him as to what the CPG industry trends are and how do you see this shaping up.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you, Jonathan. Excited to be here. I am not an engineer, unlike the two of you, analyst by trade, but obviously lots of industry experience, forecasting, demand planning, implementing PSYOPs, and just kind of following and tracking global industry trends. So we'll start with the CPG industry. In 2024, the industry market size was estimated at about $5.5 billion, but over the next 10 years, that's projected to grow to 7.8 billion. So rapid expansive growth there, really in a trending market. This is due to rising consumer demand, disposable incomes, changes in kind of organizations and product offerings, and just an overall expansion of the market. Major categories within CPG include food, beverage, personal care, and expand all the way out to toys and just other consumer household goods in general. Overall, the biggest growing categories right now are online e-commerce channels, the D2C channels where you can reach your customers directly. But as of today, the largest market cap is still that offline in-store sales, the brick and mortars, mom and pops. But really seeing a lot of growth on that web-based sales. Right now, additionally, North America is the largest market in the world. They make up about a third of the demand, but most of the growth, most of the development is coming from the APAC region, expanding markets, expanding consumers, and an increase in disposable income, really driving growth and kind of a change in the trends in these regions. At the product level, a lot of the trends we're seeing are focus on health, focus on eco packaging, sustainable packaging. There's really a renewed focus, a renewed drive from the consumer to kind of look at themselves, their overall health, and really what's best for them, their families, and for the environment. And that's really being driven by a social media influencers on the web, driving what people are looking for, creating new trends, and really at a more rapid pace than we've ever seen before, just with kind of this reach of the web, with the reach of influencers and social media. Products can take off a lot quicker. Supply chains are having to react on how to forecast, how to track these trends, and really keep up with what the consumer needs, with what the market is looking for, and how to position yourself as the right option for the consumer in the market. One thing that companies are really starting to rely on to track these trends, to keep up to pace, is AI. Obviously, this is a newer tool. A lot of people have been talking it over recent years, and everyone seems to be implementing it in a different way, in a different scale, or even just trying to understand how it can be implemented. But AI is a great tool for data collection, data review. We're able to pull data together faster than ever before and really kind of reach out, catch the whole web, understand the trends, the demands, the needs of what people are interacting with on the internet, what people are buying, and really what is shaping the industry. And this is a far more agile response than we've ever had before. We can start to be proactive instead of reactive. We can integrate this into our forecasting and really prepare for what the consumer needs and kind of eliminate some risk around what used to be unknowns or just kind of guesses in the market with better data, with this AI tracking of where the market's going, with what consumers truly need. So that's going to bring us to our first poll question here, Jonathan, on a AI based question here of how we're kind of using and what we need out of AI.
Yep, absolutely. So if we could, yep. So the first question is basically, before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes, how important is it for your organization to modernize operations as well as address supply chain gaps utilizing AI and advanced planning solutions? So we have a few different options here. First of all, is it not important? You're only here to learn about available solutions today. Is it somewhat important? You're currently exploring solutions and may implement one in the long term. Is it currently important to your organization? So you're actively evaluating solutions and plan to implement one in the next year. Very important. You are really looking and you plan to implement one in the next 3 to 6 months. Or urgent. Maybe you have some very large organizational problems, so you're ready to find a solution and implement immediately. So if you could please take a moment and answer this poll, we'd greatly appreciate it.
All right. We
Awesome.
see a lot of traction here in terms of very important, and there is few traction. It's not important, and we are only learning about available solution. But I do see some, going to somewhat important to very important states as well. So it's not urgently important at this stage, but I'm sure we are heading in that direction as well. Um, Adam, your thoughts, any thoughts that you have here? You've already mentioned as how AI is actually changing the whole scenario. The way the data gets processed is much, much faster, something that we have not anticipated in the past. It's happening now at a much faster pace. Some of the points that you've also mentioned, Adam, about how the trends are shaping up where D2C has come into more focus. There's a lot of influencer based marketing that has happened. And I'm sure all of these trends which are coming up has put a strain on supply chain as well. So I'd like to hear from you, what are the supply chain challenges that you have faced and, and seen. So I'd like to discuss that out for our audience further.
Absolutely. I think the poll results kind of match a lot what we hear in the industry. There's a lot of interest in AI, but not necessarily a ton of adoption yet of just understanding what AI can do, how we can use AI, how we can trust AI, I think is really a big one. So the implementation is really different at a lot of levels of, are we just using this for data collection and review? Are we starting to implement this into forecasting? I think a lot of people are really reluctant to fully turn the keys over to AI to kind of make buying decisions, make full forecasting decisions, but in some ways start to implement it as kind of popping up flags for planners of, what do we need to look at? Where does my attention need to be? And that's really, in a lot of ways, how I've used AI of kind of better managing time, better understanding where focus needs to be, and refocusing and repositioning the resources in the appropriate way.
That's right. Thanks for those insights as well. How about the impact on the supply chain side, more from AI? Let's look at, what are the challenges that we face within supply chain? Um,
Absolutely. So the CPG industry has a lot of supply chain challenges that can be universal at times across the board and sometimes be specific to the industry or product that you're selling. But some of the biggest ones we see in the market are seasonality. The CPG industry is really seasonal, whether that be holidays, whether it be weather driving attractions or events like spring break, or even special events at times. I know in America, it's the 250th anniversary of the country, the 250th birthday. So we're seeing a lot of push in some ways to patriotic items, eagles, bald eagles, red, white, and blue, just kind of shaping the demand or shaping what consumers are looking for. And understanding seasonality, getting out ahead of your lead times, having a good plan in place within your planning horizon and beyond your planning horizon can really make a more rapid response, can make you more agile to respond to your consumers. If there's some change, if there's an adjustment, your suppliers are ready, you're communicating ahead of time, and really just keeping things moving instead of these issues or changes kind of coming up late or responding behind your typical lead time, leading to stockouts, leading to missed opportunities, potential for growth, whatever it may be. So just strategic safety stock around certain seasons, certain items, whatever it may be, and better demand sensing really kind of eliminates some of the risk there. Understanding how that plays into different retail channels is also really important too. CPG can be widespread. It could be grocery, mass, big box, even smaller stores, mom and pops, and they all operate kind of independently and have a different set of rules than each other. So understanding what your customer wants and what their end customer wants is really important. Sitting down with your customer, understanding beyond just your product what they need to be serviced really can set you up for success. You can understand certain things that are important to them and certain things they may not necessarily list as a key factor or key contributor at times, driving their business. So bringing that back in-house, understanding it, putting it into your supply plan, and really kind of insulating the spots that are the most important and possibly changing or saving in ways that don't necessarily impact your customers is really important to getting yourself a better footing in the market. One additional channel that's really growing that we touched on is e-commerce, and e-com seems to have its own problems, issues in the way you support the consumer, whether it be supporting them logistically, distribution strategies using a 3PL, really the rapid response. If someone's on e-com, they're really looking for speed of service, convenience, availability, and having safety stock, a plan, understanding where the consumer trends are going. Because on my end, I've always seen e-com as kind of a trend leader in the industry. If you kind of track your Amazons, your Walmart.coms of their demand, you can understand trends in the industry, where the demand may be going, and better support your consumers. And obviously, having the forecast, the demand behind that to work with your suppliers to support that growth is really important. Additionally, price point is really important in the CPG industry. It's a pretty competitive market. A lot of different consumers will shop based on price point. So you need to strategically place yourself in the market based on price. Are you going to be a high quality supplier? Are you going to compete at the same level of your competitors, or are you going to try to be at a lower, more competitive place? But really, it's very important not sacrificing quality or integrity of a product when making those considerations. So working with your suppliers, having high quality, rapid response, different plans to kind of bring that price point down to keep yourself competitive and place yourself strategically within the market, understanding what the consumer really needs and putting yourself in really a competitive spot to kind of win that sale or win the shelf space where you could get out there and make a difference and kind of grow your opportunities on a line or overall for the company. Finally, CPG being so fast paced, so quick moving, first to market advantage and new product launch is very competitive and very important. So again, a very trend driven industry, coming to the market first, having the inventory to support new launches. If you're selling to the big box stores, the retailers, there's going to be a large load in at the first place for your order, followed by reoccurring replacement orders, and getting your forecast, understanding how you need your flow of inventory to come in, how you need to support that demand, and really kind of backfilling the demand that comes in as you continue to grow in the market, as you continue to expand in different channels is super important. Once a product gets into the market in CPG, if it is starting to grow, competitors will come in, there'll be knockoffs, there'll be competing items, and a stock out could really cost you shelf space. If you stock out on a new item and someone has something comparable, that one of your customers could go to a competitor, and if they stay in stock, you might not get that shelf space back. So it's really important to understand your launch plan, where you're going, the stock you need, when you need it, and forecasting appropriately for growth, making sure you have the raw materials to support a product launch and the proper flow of inventory.
Right. And thanks, Adam, for sharing some of these points. And majority of these points that we see over here are driven from the consumer side and how what the market wants, right? How that's changing and shifting and creating an additional pressure on our supply chain. And these are pretty important points. We would also like to discuss about what are the trends which are, what are the challenges which are more external to the company, which probably we may not have major control over. And we have seen in the recent past, some of these challenges taking toll. So, like to get your views of what your experience have been around that, and some of these industry challenges would also be pretty interesting for our audience. Would also like to discuss furthermore as to how we have addressed it. But for now, let's hear the challenges.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point that consumers really drive the market, the demand, understanding the needs at the point of sale is very important. But at certain times, some of those issues, impacts, roadblocks that you face might not necessarily be completely in your hands. So it seems like over the last 6 to 10 years, it's just been one thing after another, a continual run of once in a lifetime events, of kind of black swan events of something unseen before or at least unexpected. So, one thing in North America and across the world changing is tariffs. So, CPG items, there's a handful of items that have been historically zero tariff items or at least low tariff items in the US. And when the newest tariffs were implemented about a year ago, it was just a broad tariff based on country of origin. So, understanding sourcing, understanding your supply chain, having multiple options is really important to mitigate the risk. If you're able to get ahead, get a forecast, and understand your future needs, as the tariffs change, you can kind of control the flow of inventory. But tariffs, really, as they're implemented, are something that's out of companies' hands, but something that is just operationally always going to be there in one way or another. Additionally, over the last 6 years here, supply chain interruptions have almost seemed like a constant, whether it be pandemics, COVID, logistics issues, port shutdowns, raw material shortages or delays. I feel like I could just keep going on about supply chain interruptions. So, having a strategic business plan, understanding needs and your supply chain to kind of react to as each of these come up, it almost seems like something you wouldn't expect or plan for in the past. So it just shows you how important it is to have a rigid structure, but a flexible response to what happens in the market, what happens in the industry, and how you can kind of respond, be agile to meet your consumers' needs. And it's a lot easier if you understand what your own needs are internally. Really, these first two up here just keep leading to increased lead times, increased costs, port shutdowns, container availability, really a long list of things continue to increase lead times, which all impact overall item cost. So, one thing I always like to do is breaking down an overall product lead time in portions, raw material sourcing, production, importing, and understanding that each supplier, each channel, each product might be different. I think a lot of people have resourced items for tariffs, interruptions, whatever it may be. And if you're still planning for a lead time out of Indonesia, Cambodia, whatever it may be, that you were out of China, it's probably not the same. It's going to take longer on the water. You need to truly understand as changes are made, as raw material interruptions come up, or just capacity is filled, that lead times change, overall costs are changing, and how you respond to that, how you kind of fit into the market to either absorb those costs, lessen those costs, or pass those costs along, and what the response is before it lands before you kind of feel that impact internally. And finally, shifting consumer behavior in the CPG industry. I mean, we've talked about how rapid things are, how things are changing, the real focus on health-based or health-conscious items, eco-pack, sustainability overall, keeping up with the consumer behavior and understanding where the market is going will make you far more agile. It'll give you a rapid response, and it can really help prevent getting dead stock, dead inventory on old trends, and just faster responses to what the market needs, what the market is doing, really kind of eliminates some of the risk and some of the problems we may see in the market.
Thanks, Adam, and quite put together in terms of how in the past couple of years we have been continuously seeing one black swan events, one time events, and it's just not stopping at all. It's just going on and on. And how that has put a pressure on the industry in terms of increase of your lead time costs and the your shift in the consumer behavior as well. I do remember this time last year, when the tariffs were implemented and how at the last minute there was a need to look at different suppliers and figure out all of that. So I'd like to hear from you how what are the strategic approaches that you had implemented in the past, which probably our audience can also look at and would like to hear more from you as to what did you do to strengthen the supply chain overall despite these challenges.
Absolutely. With so many different challenges, issues, new things arising, it seems like you're almost always reaching in a new direction, trying something new to address these challenges, or working with partners, suppliers, whoever it may be, to kind of insulate this risk or at least respond better. But some of the main impacts, some of the best practices that we've seen overall to fix issues or at least respond to issues are dual sourcing. Dual sourcing is not new. I think a lot of people have always been dual sourced or at least had 2, 3 suppliers on main items. But these black swan events, these newer issues that we're seeing, if you're dual sourced on 2 items in China and there's a country of origin level tariff on China, you're single sourced for your issue of risk. And understanding the potential for risk, understanding what you're really trying to dual source from, and kind of rethinking what the risk could be is a new process or kind of a new way we started looking at things of spreading out our sourcing, understanding where our raw materials are coming from, how we can reduce tariffs, what we can do to overall kind of spread out our liability or our risks amongst suppliers and make a more stable supply chain overall. Additionally, to support dual sourcing, you could do nearshoring or reshoring to kind of bring some of that production either back to the US or where you're located regionally, or at least closer. And whether that means kind of final assembly, last steps by just bringing in raw materials or semi-finished materials, or in certain cases, full production. There are cost trade-offs there, but there's a lot of risk reduction as well too. So setting up a supply chain where you can be more rapid in response, having things on hand in the US really can, at some times, in some ways, service your consumers better, get product on the shelf faster, and really eliminate some of the risk, reduce tariffs, and kind of better position you in the market in certain ways. So understanding the trade-offs there on cost. And really one thing we've seen recently is marketing, the marketing of reshoring, of US finished, US made, whatever it is, can resonate at a time like this in certain channels with certain customers, of kind of explaining how a supply chain is set up, what is supported here in the US or kind of regionally in different areas, and promoting the image, the understanding of what the company's doing, how they're working, and what they can support. In addition to that, improve supplier partnerships, stocking programs, really just giving your suppliers visibility to your needs, passing along your consumers' needs. If you have a forecast, if you have a detailed forecast that you can work with and better set up your supplier on raw material inventory, finished good inventory. It can give you a far more agile response. If you can get forecasts of what's to come, you can get raw material pricing benefits and pass that benefit on through the supply chain and get a lower cost. And really, it's about just having a rapid response, meeting the consumer's needs, setting up a more solid supply chain overall, and really integrating with your suppliers, keeping them up to date on what you need, what you're working on is one of the best ways to achieve that. And finally, enhanced forecasting. Enhanced forecasting is really just the baseline, it's the foundation of how you set yourself up for success. If you can understand what's going in and out, if you can understand the flow of inventory, it really helps you make more accurate inventory decisions. It increases your service levels and supports your customers really in the way they need to be. So you can see this trends, the seasonality, understand your channels. Really, you need to look outside your lead time. So if you're working with your suppliers, if you have a 3-month lead time, a 5-month lead time, even longer, you need to understand what's coming down the pipeline after that. So implementing a SIOP process, an S&OP, working with your different channels to understand what's coming, what's expected, and really communicating that back to your suppliers, working with your sales team, your marketing team. You can increase visibility to sales, to finance, to leadership, and suppliers, and really put yourself in a better position, respond to trends, respond to those issues, those forecasting events that really interrupt what you're trying to do in the supply chain. It really sets the baseline for everything.
Thank you, Adam. It was quite detailed, and I really liked some of the point. One of them was dual sourcing. If both the suppliers are in China and single source, we need to be really cognizant of that fact as to how do we go about building that dual source, which comes in handy when there is a risk, because otherwise the risk is not going away. And a lot of other points as well in terms of nearshoring in the long run. We need to also look into that direction, and of course, enhanced forecasting. Needless to say, how do we go about leveraging the data and analytics for making our predictions more accurate? And would like to hear from you. You've been working for a long time, and I do remember, when we did the implementation at Wild Republic, there were a lot of things that sort of streamlined. I was so happy to see some of those results as well. So, would like to see how these approaches, as well as the system that you've been using, has benefited the organization. If you can throw some light there.
Absolutely. So the goal of the implementation was to really just set up a more stable supply chain, supply demand balancing, and we really integrated the solution streamline with our SIOP process. The rollout was kind of a one-step process of connecting to our system, but then immediately getting out there with sales, marketing, our team, of understanding our new tool, putting it to use, and really understanding the needs of our consumers, the needs of the market, and where our inventory sat today and how we can better position that for growth tomorrow. So worked with you, implemented the solution, implemented Streamline, and immediately got to work with our sales team on setting up the appropriate stocking levels. I don't think it's something that we necessarily fully defined before, and working through the tool, working through the system there, it really helped us better understand what was right for our organization and what we really need to do to support our customers. Working through a structured SIOP system with a monthly cadence, we were able to reduce our inventory. We were overstocked at the time, over 30%, while we were increasing our service levels. Service levels increased over 5%. But really, what we did was service our customers better. We were able to identify lost opportunities, missed sales from stockouts, and bring that inventory in instead of just looking at just a historical sales number or something that may have been there before. One really big benefit, we worked our inventory down, we got into a good place, and then unfortunately the tariffs went into place. So it was kind of a pivot from decreasing inventory to almost turning around, and at certain times, if we were able to get a better landed cost, increasing inventory. So using the safety stock solutions in there, working through the dynamic safety stocking to ensure our top items, our top revenue producers, our top quantity producers had the appropriate amount of safety stock to support the service levels we needed, really increased our forecasting accuracy, got us a great buy plan out of the system. That demand forecast generation and buy plan really is where we were living every day of, do we have the right items? Are they going to the right place? Are they coming at the right time? And we were able to get our forecast over 90% accuracy, really understanding what our consumers needed, when they needed it, and increased our service rates pretty significantly. So bringing the right inventory in really alleviated a lot of stress on operations. It got a good flow of inventory coming in. It kind of matched that seasonality that I was talking about there. But really, it prevented reships on partial orders, on back orders. It really fixed kind of a lot of operational issues, cash flows that we had seen in the past from things that go unnoticed at times. Just because you ship out the door and then 2 weeks later an item's in, you can ship again, you filled the order. But understanding kind of the full impact of that, getting the items in when they need to be, Streamline really gave us visibility to all the moving parts. It was able to roll it up at a level that finance really loved to see the detail of what the impact was of any change we were going to make, if we were going to try to increase our service levels or increase our safety stock, what the impact would that be on the business, and really kind of gave leadership a directional view of, this is where we are, this is where we're going. If we had a product line that was experiencing stockouts or stocking issues, kind of build a kind of rehabilitation plan of when we thought we could get back in stock, the impact of certain stockout periods, and better position ourselves to, just as I keep saying, service our customers and really better placing in the market.
Thanks, Adam. And that brings us to our next poll. Jonathan.
Yep, absolutely. So as we've covered some topics up to this point, so which area would you want an AI-driven system to improve your planning process? Is it just looking at forecast accuracy as a metric? Do you have excess inventory and you're looking to reduce that? Are you trying to build S&OP collaboration between the sales team, the supply chain team, and maybe the suppliers? Are you having stockouts and want to identify that risk and eliminate it before it occurs? Or do you think that you're already at the best level and are again just here to learn today? So please take a moment to answer the poll. And then once we get some responses, then we can kind of see what everybody's thinking. Awesome. Thank you very much. And then Sheetal, do you want to comment on it, or would you like for me to?
Um, I I guess, but I'm pretty happy to see that there is a good amount of traction on improving forecast accuracy, because if you would look in that direction, rest of the things would automatically improve as well. So this is the starting point. So definitely. I'm happy to see that there is a good amount of traction and people want to improve their forecasting process and forecast accuracy as well. And when Adam was also mentioning in this slide, which was, how they went about achieving 90% accuracy, how they went about setting up that SIO process for with the sales team and review their inventory, review and identify what should be inventory levels that we need to maintain. And ultimately, I've seen a reduction there as well. Adam, Jonathan, your views on this poll as well. Would like to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. So any good process starts with a proper plan. So you're not going to have any of the other measurable results if you don't have a proper forecast. So I think that's a very wise position to start.
Absolutely. I think it's the baseline. And once you fix that forecast, you'll see kind of the benefits rolling downhill from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's time to now showcase the application which Wild Republic has used and many of our other customers have been using and are a very happy customer as well. I would like to showcase how, at a very high level, how the application does what it does. And if you would want, we would be happy to do a detailed demonstration. But keeping this webinar in mind, we'll have a very short overview of the application. Do let us know of any, question that you may have. We would be happy to support that as well. So let me know once my browser is visible. It was static for a long time, so it's reloading. So Streamline is an application which is cloud-based, and that's where the collaboration is more effective and real time as well. Anyone can make modifications, and then they can see what the change on my inventory plan is. And what are the information that the other person in the team has put in. So all of that information comes in pretty handy. And okay, let me look at some example projects. Have I'll use this example where we have a company which is in multiple different domains. This is where we have CPG, where we have fashion, we have food and beverage. So we have a bunch of people from different industry on this webinar. So just wanted to not keep it for one industry, but keep it more generic. Now we can see this is how the data gets compiled in the application. So there's a lot of data that goes in. One of the information is the historical sales data. That becomes our starting point, but that's not the only data that we consider. There's whole bunch of other information that we can feed in to better our forecast in terms of any kind of event that may have made our forecast or made our sales poor. So we have an option where we can ignore the actual sales. System has a built-in automatic outlier detection mode, which will automatically cleanse the historical sales data. It would also look at your closing stock and would determine, were we out of stock on certain days? Did that result in in reduction in sales? And if so, it would automatically adjust my forecast so that we don't have to do these manual exercise. So that's where a lot of intelligence is there in the application for us to utilize and benefit from. There's a whole bunch of options available here in terms of looking at managing certain holidays, be there, those can be one-time holidays, they can be recurring holidays as well. Or it could be a discount promotion that we have given to our customers. So we can feed in the discount promotions for a specific channel or for a specific product. We can feed in the start date, end date. We can also provide the future dates as well. One, we can let the system determine what the impact of these promotions are, or we can feed in the details about what is the impact in terms of percentages or in terms of unit increase or decrease. So we can feed that in, and there's, as you can see, there's whole bunch of information along with the ability to do demand sensing for us to manage things much faster and quicker. And that's where this application comes in handy. On this portion of the screen, I can see we have consumer goods, we have fashion, we have food and beverage, and I can select any of these points. I can select electronics, and my data on the screen would automatically adjust to showcase that information. Along with electronics, I see some of these value information in green and pink, and I feel this is quite important. That's where system at one glance tells me, am I overstocked? Am I understocked? So if it's green, it means we are overstocked by that much amount, which means we have the option to either balance that inventory to another location, or we can, get this product and liquidate it by giving certain promotions and discounts. If it's pink in color, if these numbers appear pink in color, it shows that we are properly stocked out and there could be a loss of sales, and that is going to be this much amount. For example, in this case, it's 24 billion, right? And that's very important for us to understand that where am I going to lose out on an opportunity to ensure that my customers are serviced properly. We can then call up our suppliers, get the materials on time, and manage through that. But at a very quick glance, it tells me this information. We also have dashboards available where we can look at our revenue information. So we can start from here. We can get a complete overview of what are the different business division, what's the revenue breakdown, what's the category-wise revenue breakdown with respect to different months, with respect to ABC classification, and a whole lot of information related to inventory, related to shortages and excess stock as well. So these are custom built dashboard, allows you to be more flexible, look at the information that you are keen to, really showcase to the management or for your regular working. So you can create some of these dashboards and then see where do we need to take actions. Uh,
And Sheetal, one thing we used that dashboard for was creating a PSYOP dashboard. So it was really just a live dashboard of what we were seeing supply, demand, and kind of the outputs. And it was really beneficial for having to kind of be live updating document of exactly the metrics we need.
Absolutely. And something, Adam, I've also seen you use these dashboards on a regular basis. You would be like, open up these dashboards and see, okay, this is where things are going. So really a great way to, start the day in terms of the supply chain activity on this application, see where things are heading correctly, where things are going wrong, and then start taking actions. So thanks, Adam. Thanks for that point. So very quickly, I'll just go back here. I'll briefly talk about some of the approaches to forecasting and the inventory planning as well. So we have the system which automatically generates a forecast. It has an advanced feature of identifying the trend within the data and then determine for the forecast how much that level and trend is going to be. So it it need not look at the entire history, but there are built-in engine which would only look at the data which gives the most accurate trend. So that's where streamline application is quite advanced as compared to the other players in the market. And we do have options where we can create notes, where we can edit the forecast if required, and a whole bunch of it. So please reach out in case you want a detailed demonstration. But the idea is to just give a view and a flavor of what this application can really do. We do have an inventory tab as well where we can look at basis my forecast, what each and every item and a location is going to be. We have the option where we can select multiple suppliers as well. So the option which Adam spoke about of dual sourcing, that's available. We can split the order plan between the two suppliers directly from the system. We do have options for creating constrained order. We have options to create our full truckload or full container size. We do have options where we can look at lead times, then determine, am I stocked out or am I overstocked? So this is more in terms of units and inventory. At each and every location we can see, okay, if it's light green in color, we are good. We have 20 days of supply, and there is some additional stock that's coming in. And system allows you to determine, what service level that you're targeting for each and every product. And that helps system calculate what should be the ideal safety stock. You can have strategies in the system where you can create for your A class item a certain service level target, for B class item another service level target, and system is going to automatically calculate safety stock. So that's pretty useful feature for companies who are looking at inventory reduction. I saw some of the webinar attendees had mentioned reduction in inventory level as one of the KPI. Right. So we do have options where we can determine what should be my ABC classification be based on revenue, units sold, or forecast uncertainty, variability, cost, profit. We can select that and then specify that for my A class item, I want to be maintaining a 98% service level. For my C class item, probably I can maintain 85, 90% service level. Those are anyways not fast mover products. So that is where the entire alignment is. And I would just like to, conclude for the demo. Would not like to take a lot of time. There's a whole bunch of things that goes into this application, but the idea was to just show you the options that are available. Would like to now, stress upon this point, and which is for an effective planning process, it's very important that we have the data. We have cleansed the data. Otherwise, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. We need to have a defined process to see success. And that process has to be very well tracked, and the cadence has to be there for it to see a success. Along with that, a team. So a solution in itself will not do everything. It's going to give you it's a superpower to have, but someone knows how to manage it. And these are the three pillars which would help you manage and get the best out of the applications. So data, process, and team would help you get a success in using some of these applications more effectively. Very quickly to talk about Anamind, that's the company that I represent. So we have been in this industry for quite some time. We have partnered with Streamline to bring the solution to our customers. We love Streamline, and that's where we have seen the system does phenomenally well. And some of our customers, like Wild Republic, has seen a great advantage. So we work with customers across geographies. We have a more consultative approach rather than just a solution implementer approach. We consult in terms of how do we actually take you from X to Y, and what are the things that needs to be available to be able to achieve that. So our core competency is in planning, and that's what we offer end-to-end planning, starting from demand with AI ML-based approach to to stock replenishment, to MRP procurement planning, production planning, scheduling, and S&OP collaboration. So we have end-to-end options available over here. The system is quick to use, easy to implement, easy to use and quick to implement, and is modular and provides end-to-end coverage. Would like to bring Jonathan to discuss more about the financial efficiency.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you, Sheetal, for the presentation of the solution. But I just kind of want to highlight a few things. So while it's great to review softwares, it's mostly important to use those software to drive business results. And so whenever you utilize Streamline, we have a very strong focus on financial efficiency. So if you recall that money tree or that SKU tree on the very first demand tab, gives you a very quick view of where you're going to have shortages or where you have excess inventory. So in 30 seconds, you understand where there's a problem in your business. In order to drive those financial efficiencies, there are various operational challenges that we solve, which you can see down here to the left side of the screen. So shortages in inventory, making sure that you never miss an order and drive top line revenue growth, giving you the best forecast accuracy for every single SKU location channel pair. We want to, if you're on Excel spreadsheets right now, we want to get you off of those. We want to have a bonfire in the backyard, right? Get true S&OP alignment and a fully automated single source of truth. In addition to eliminating shortages, we also want to help you reduce excess inventory. So really returning money back to your cash flow, driving cash flow hygiene, and then reducing carrying cost. We're going to understand your purchasing constraints. So whether you be manufacturing something, importing something, what have you, and then all of the lead times or other constraints associated with that, we'll take them into account. And then we're going to enable you with full visibility and control of your organization and your processes. Whenever somebody partners with Streamline, typically what they see is a reduction in stockouts by 90 to 98%, a reduction in overstock by 30 to 50%. And if you're coming from Excel over to Streamline, then about 60 to 90% of the time you spend determining and executing these tasks will be automated for you. We are the number one platform for modernizing the S&OP process, and I'm very excited to say that. So if you look over here to the graph on the right, you can see that as far as market presence goes, you have your big hitters like Oracle, IBM, and SAP, billions in revenue, hence very large market presence. But if you're looking at customer satisfaction, then Streamline is rated far and away the best out of the competition. And because of that, we get a lot of awards. So you can see leader for the space, most implementable for your IT people, best relationship, and then top 50 supply chain softwares out there today. And I think this just really goes to show the dedication of not only Streamline's people, but also our partners in Anamine to providing the best service and support. Additionally, we have a very wide range of experience. So Wild Republic was kind enough to join the call today and talk about some of the results that they've had. But if you're not in toys, we are still enabled to help you. So you can see that we have electronics manufacturing, pharmaceutical manufacturing. If you're a gas station, we work with Circle K, enabling them, or furniture, we work with Wayland. And then you can also see a very large experience in whether it be food or beverage, retail, e-commerce. No matter the use case, we're here to help you. But I would say the three key areas are manufacturers, distributors, and retailers where we operate the best. So that's a brief overview of Streamline, some of our value drivers, and how we can help you. So, are there any questions from the group? We would love to answer them. Okay. We have a few questions from Victor. So the first question for Sheetal and Adam is, whenever you are working with AI, how reliable is the information, and how can we be sure that we're asking the right questions to AI or are utilizing AI the right way in order to drive business results?
So that's a great question. I think Jonathan said something really important about kind of finding that one source of truth. And I think a lot of people's reluctancy towards AI is that there might not be one source of truth. You'll go in and put a question into ChatGPT, Claude, and Copilot and get three different answers, three slightly different answers. So one thing I like to do is use multiple different AI applications when asking, put the prompt in, see what I get. And if the information matches, if it's the same, kind of further research from there, but take that as the baseline. When there's conflicting information, that's kind of the first red flag of reliability, further information, possibly another tool than AI for that research. Sheetal, thoughts?
Absolutely, Adam. I think you have very well put that we need to look at multiple different AI platforms to see what exactly is the output coming from, and then take our judgment as well. I would say, apply your judgment in terms of, accepting those results and acting upon them as well. The it is true that system gives a different results. So the reliability is sort of low at this stage, but it's catching up. It's catching up at a much faster pace. I'm sure it's going to be quite effective as well
Awesome.
in the long run. Yeah.
Yep, thank you too. And we have one more question from Victor. So, in your experience, what are the best strategies to apply when you understand the elements that comprise the length of a long supply chain? And then at the same time, how can you utilize AI tools to identify those sudden changes in forecast and really drive those reactions for our organization?
Right. So this is where it's very important. What are the best strategies to apply? I think it's a very long answer that we have, and we are almost up on the time. But there are certain strategies that we have to look into. First, understand where the gaps are, understand, where the high costs are coming from. So, what exactly is pinching you in the supply chain? That's where we have to, first of all, understand. And then, based on each of these factors, we'll have to apply different strategy. So, there's no one strategy that fits all. So, you'll have to look into that. The other area which is, how do we at the same time AI tools identify, how would the AI tools identify certain changes in the forecast? So there are applications like Streamline, which would help you sense that demand quickly. There are applications which either you use an application like Streamline or you can use AI. And then there are certain prompts that you can give to determine how there are certain shifts that are happening in terms of the recent data, in terms of the same period last year. So we need to look at the seasonal angle as well to determine that the change that's happening now, is it more seasonal? Is it something that we should have anticipated, or is it something that's just truly off? Um, so there are different ways in which we can do demand sensing, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that it's not always uh, important to identify these sudden changes. We have to know, do we have the leverage to act upon these changes as well? Do you have sufficient or short lead time to really act upon these demand change and tweak your supply chain? Because if not, then that change can happen, but still it would be difficult to act upon if my lead times are long. So that's where I would like to point out.
Absolutely. And the one thing I'd add to that, Sheetal, is that's a great point on that extended lead times have multiple causes within that lead time for what's extending it. So, truly understanding what those causes are and open communication with all the touch points along that chain is really important. If your suppliers have an understanding of what your expectations are, what you're doing, if you're intertwined with sales or your customers, it makes it easier to respond to some of those changes or obstacles that you may face, and you could be a little bit quicker. Everyone obviously hates surprises in supply chain in these scenarios, and just kind of anything you could do, even if you kind of raise a concern or a flag early and then it doesn't materialize or something that doesn't necessarily impact you, I've always found more communication is better.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. Thanks for that point.
Yep, thank you. And I believe that's all the questions we have right now. So we do have one more slide. Really, oh, yeah, thank you so much. So we do have one more slide. So really appreciate everybody's attendance today and your attention as we went through our presentation. We would love to connect following the webinar. So you can see we all have different email addresses and different QR codes, but you reach out to any of us and we'll be more than happy to chat with you. So thank you so much. Really appreciate Sheetal and Adam, your presentation today, and hopefully we will speak to you all soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good day.
Bye.